It made decaf. Sykes paused. An investigation is ongoing. A Zha'kari pushed through the kitchen doors. Earl pointed his spatula at him. You got a ticket! The alien raised his rifle. Earl slapped the barrel aside with the spatula. The plasma bolt struck the ventilation hood. A sheet of grease ignited. Earl looked up at the flames. You have upset me. The alien backed away. Earl lifted the waffle iron. The Zha'kari stared at it. That device is connected to the counter. Earl tore the power cable free. Not anymore! He swung. The waffle iron struck the alien's chest plate with a metallic crunch. A perfect square pattern was pressed into the armor. Earl examined it. Needs another minute. He hit him again. Donna climbed over the counter and landed beside Malone. You boys always this much trouble? Malone fired twice. Only on liberty. This is why night shift charges extra. A plasma bolt shattered the syrup rack. Bottles burst across the floor. Donna's face changed. That was imported maple! Kravix heard her translator-assisted tone and instinctively took one step backward. Donna picked up a broken table leg. Tasha! Yes? Lock the doors. Which side? Both. Kravix turned. What does she mean, both? The station-facing doors slammed shut. The kitchen service hatch closed. Emergency shutters started to lower over the windows, jammed halfway on a fallen alien rifle, and left the disaster visible from the concourse. Kravix found himself trapped inside the restaurant with 17 Marines, 5 Waffle House employees, and 1 extremely upset coffee machine. Nareth's voice came through his communicator. Commander, are you secure? Kravix watched Donna advance with the table leg. No. Do you require reinforcements? Yes. Are you certain? Send everyone. Nareth studied the tactical display outside. Inside the restaurant, human life signs were moving rapidly. Zha'kari life signs were becoming horizontal. Commander, I must note that this outcome was included in my risk assessment. Send the troops, Nareth! Understood. Nareth ended the transmission and looked at the 20 Zha'kari reinforcements waiting in the concourse. Sub-War Marshal Kravix has ordered us to enter. The squad leader looked through the window. Donna struck an alien with a coffee pot. Leon threw another across a booth. Miller emerged from the toilet in a wave of blue foam, while an enemy trooper wore a plunger. The squad leader lowered his rifle. No. Nareth nodded. A compelling tactical assessment. Station security arrived 3 minutes after the first shot. This was considered an excellent response time. It would have been faster, but the team had stopped at the armory to argue about whether a Waffle House incident required riot equipment, combat armor, or a priest. The security commander, Lieutenant Aaron Cole, approached the restaurant with 8 officers. They heard gunfire. They heard aliens screaming. They heard furniture breaking. They heard a woman shout, "Who tracked blue blood across my clean floor?" Cole stopped outside the entrance. One officer raised his weapon. Cole pushed it down. No. Sir? That belongs to the Marines now. There are civilians inside. Cole looked through the glass. Donna dragged an unconscious Zha'kari away from the grill by one ankle. Earl continued cooking while a fire burned behind him. Tasha stood on the counter directing Marines with a coffee pot. Big Leon was attempting to insert an alien into a rubbish container that was clearly too small. No civilians appeared to require assistance. A plasma bolt passed through the window. The security team ducked. Inside, Kowalski screamed, "My bacon!" Cole keyed his radio. "Station Control, this is Security Team 2. Hostile boarding action confirmed at Waffle House." Station Control answered immediately. "Do you require reinforcement?" Cole watched Malone strike an alien with a coffee urn. Again. "No." Medical support? Eventually. Fire suppression? Cole looked at the burning ventilation hood. Probably. Structural engineering? A Zha'kari was thrown through an internal wall. Definitely. The controller hesitated. What is the current status of the enemy? Cole watched Donna climb onto a booth and jump onto Kravik's back. Losing structurally. A station chaplain arrived behind the security team. Does anyone require spiritual support? Cole pointed through the window. Try the aliens. The chaplain watched Miller hit a Zha'kari in the head with his new plunger. I'm not qualified for whatever happened in there. A civilian contractor appeared with a maintenance tablet. Who authorized damage to the sanitation system? Cole stared at him. There is an alien recovery operation in progress. Yes, but I need a work order number. An explosion shook the restaurant. Water poured beneath the restroom door. The contractor looked down at his tablet. I'm putting this down as misuse. Cole took the tablet and threw it into a rubbish bin. The contractor gasped. That was company property. Cole pointed at the restaurant. Go retrieve it. The contractor reconsidered the depth of his commitment to corporate procedure. The station's public address system chimed. A calm Navy voice said, Attention all hands. Hostile Zha'kari forces are currently engaged inside Waffle House Interstellar Dining Module 01. There was a pause. Non-essential personnel should avoid Deck 3. Another pause followed. Second Platoon is already on scene. Every Marine inside the restaurant cheered. The Navy voice continued, Do not enter the restaurant unless you are carrying ammunition, medical supplies, or replacement coffee. Malone raised his mug. Finally, sensible orders. Outside, 20 Zha'kari reinforcements formed a firing line. Nareth stepped forward. Prepare to breach. Miller appeared behind the broken window, covered in blue foam and holding a plunger. Every Zha'kari helmet scanned him. Warning symbols filled their displays. Sanitation, Marine confirmed. Porcelain Punisher active. Multiple sanitation casualties detected. Withdrawal advised. The squad leader lowered his rifle. No! Kravik shouted through the shattered window. Advance! The squad leader took one step backward. Our doctrine is clear. Your doctrine is cowardice. Nareth folded his hands behind his back. Doctrine is written by survivors. Kravik pointed at Miller. He is one human. At that moment, Miller struck a Zha'kari with the plunger because the alien had attempted to stand. The squad leader took another step backward. He appears to have reacquired his ceremonial weapon. It is a cleaning device. His previous weapon was toilet paper. Kravik looked around desperately. The concourse access doors opened behind the reinforcement squad. More humans arrived. They were not Marines. They were off-duty Navy personnel, civilian freight handlers, fuel technicians, and employees from the neighboring coffee kiosk. The coffee workers carried metal pitchers. The freight handlers carried loading hooks. The Navy personnel carried the eager expressions of sailors who had discovered an opportunity to watch Marines get blamed for something. A Navy chief stepped forward. What's happening? Cole answered. Alien prisoner recovery operation. Who's winning? A Zha'kari crashed through the window and landed at their feet. Cole looked down. Waffle House. The Navy chief nodded. Good. We'll secure the perimeter. One young sailor raised his hand. Should we assist the Marines? The chief looked inside. Kowalski was standing on a booth, eating bacon and firing an alien rifle one-handed. No, that might encourage them. Kravik shouted at Nareth. Your family will suffer if I am captured. Nareth looked at the armed station personnel behind him, the sealed Waffle House ahead of him, and the 20 troopers waiting for an order. Nareth studied the chaos inside the restaurant, then turned toward the 20 troopers waiting behind him. For the first time during the operation, he made a decisive command choice. It was not a good choice. He pointed toward the shattered diner entrance. First squad, enter the nutritional chamber and reinforce Sub-War Marshal Kravix. 10 Zha'kari raised their weapons. Nareth then pointed toward Lieutenant Cole's security team and the gathering Navy personnel in the concourse. Second squad, engage the station defenders. Keep them away from the restaurant. The remaining 10 troopers formed a firing line. Lieutenant Cole watched them divide into 2 groups. Beside him, the Navy chief sighed and drew his sidearm. They're attacking security and the Navy at the same time? Cole raised his rifle. Apparently. The chief looked toward the Waffle House, where blue sanitation foam was still pouring from the restroom and an alien had just been thrown through a window. Which group got the safer assignment? Cole considered the question. The ones attacking us. The first 10 Zha'kari charged toward the diner. The second 10 opened fire on station security and the Navy personnel. Nareth remained behind them, directing the assault from what he believed was a protected position. A coffee kiosk employee leaned around the corner and threw a metal milk pitcher at his helmet. Nareth staggered. The station battle had officially expanded. Inside, Kravix climbed onto a table and activated his command amplifier. Zha'kari warriors, regroup! These humans are chaotic, but undisciplined. Diaz slid across the counter on his stomach, firing one-handed while holding a waffle in his mouth. Briggs shouted, "Reloading!" Tasha threw him a magazine. Nobody knew where she had obtained it. Nobody asked. Kravix stared at her. That civilian is distributing ammunition. Donna struck an alien across the helmet. She's on shift. Lieutenant Harris attempted to restore order. Marines! Controlled fire! Kowalski shouted. Sir, define controlled. Do not destroy the restaurant. Kowalski looked around. Half the tables were overturned. The ceiling fan was on fire. 3 aliens were trapped inside a booth. The kitchen floor was covered in cheese. Blue foam continued pouring from the restroom. Big Leon was using a rubbish bin lid as a shield. Earl was holding a waffle iron like a medieval flail. Tucker was carefully securing prisoners according to procedure. Simmons was using a breakfast tray as a shield while shouting tactical advice he had learned from Diaz 15 minutes earlier. Miller saw him. Simmons! Yes, Corporal? What did I say about copying Diaz? Simmons blocked an alien strike with the tray. Leave the area. And did you? No, Corporal. Why? Simmons shoved the alien into a booth. The exit was blocked. Miller considered this acceptable. A plasma bolt struck the ceiling fan. The fan gave one final wobble, caught fire, and continued turning with the stubborn professionalism of equipment that had not yet received permission to fail. Lieutenant Harris pointed at it. That is exactly what I meant. Controlled fire. Diaz ducked as the burning fan threw a piece of metal across the restaurant. Sir, technically none of us shot that. That does not make the situation better. A Zha'kari trooper attempted to climb over the counter. Tasha struck him across the fingers with the metal coffee pot. Employees only. The alien withdrew his hand. Then Big Leon picked him up by the back of his armor and placed him head first into an empty rubbish bin. The alien's legs kicked helplessly above the rim. Leon pushed the lid down. Now he's contained. Harris stared at him. That is not an approved prisoner restraint method. Leon placed one massive hand on the lid as the bin shook beneath it. It's working. Across the diner, Earl swung the disconnected waffle iron at another Zha'kari. The alien ducked, causing the iron to strike the wall and leave a perfect square-shaped dent. Earl examined the mark. Wall's undercooked. Donna grabbed Kravix's ceremonial sash as he tried to crawl past the coffee station and pulled him backwards across the floor. Kravix clawed desperately at the tiles. I am a sub-war marshal. Donna kept pulling. And I'm short-staffed. We all have problems. Kowalski stood behind the counter and surveyed what remained of the restaurant. 2 booths had collapsed. The jukebox was smoking. Blue sanitation foam was spreading from the restroom corridor. An alien was trapped in a rubbish bin, and another was hanging halfway through the kitchen service window. The burning ceiling fan finally detached and crashed into a pile of abandoned chairs. A Zha'kari rushed Harris. Harris blocked the alien's knife with his clipboard. The blade punched through 3 pages of liberty restrictions and stopped against the metal backing. Harris stared at the damaged clipboard. This was government property. The alien pulled the knife free. Harris struck him across the visor with the clipboard. Once, twice, then repeatedly. You have no idea how many signatures were on this. Briggs watched. Sir's gone feral. Malone reloaded. They damaged his paperwork. That does it. Officers form emotional bonds with office supplies. Harris continued beating the alien. I had color-coded tabs. Kravix drew his curved energy blade. Humans! Your resistance ends now! Donna pointed a skillet at him. You keep saying that. The 20 Zha'kari moved at once. 10 advanced into the concourse and took cover behind benches, information kiosks, and reinforced support columns. The other 10 turned toward the Waffle House. Nareth pointed toward the station defenders. First squad, establish a firing line. Keep the Navy and station security away from the nutritional chamber. The first squad spread out with professional precision. 4 troopers knelt behind overturned benches. 3 took positions behind the central information kiosk. The remaining 3 covered the flanks from behind thick decorative planters that had been advertised as tasteful additions to the station's public spaces and were now being used to stop plasma fire. Their portable shields activated. Blue energy barriers joined together across the concourse, forming a solid defensive line between the Waffle House and the approaching station personnel. Lieutenant Cole saw the formation appear. Cover! The Zha'kari opened fire. Blue plasma bolts tore through the concourse. Station security officers dived behind support columns and overturned seating. Navy personnel dropped behind vending machines, maintenance carts, and anything else that looked expensive enough to be bullet-resistant. A plasma bolt struck the information screen above Cole. The display flickered, went black, and then cheerfully announced, Welcome to Jefferson 9. We hope you enjoy your visit. Cole stared at it. A second bolt destroyed the screen. Visit's going badly, he muttered. The Navy chief crouched behind a metal bench beside him. They're not advancing. Cole leaned out, fired twice, and ducked back as return fire struck the column. They don't need to. They're holding us here while the other squad goes inside. The chief looked toward the Waffle House. Through the half-lowered security shutters, smoke sparks and blue sanitation foam could be seen filling the restaurant. An alien suddenly struck the inside of the window and slid down the glass. The chief watched him disappear below the frame. You think they need reinforcements? Another alien flew across the restaurant behind him. Cole reloaded. I think they believe they do. The Zha'kari firing line continued shooting in controlled bursts. Their shields absorbed the return fire from station security. Each time one alien reloaded, another increased his rate of fire to cover him. It was disciplined, organized, professional. Everything the battle inside the Waffle House was not. The Navy chief looked along the human position. His sailors were spread behind whatever cover they had been able to find. 2 engineers had overturned a heavy tool cabinet. 3 security officers were pinned behind a coffee kiosk. A young sailor had taken cover behind a cardboard display advertising discounted station tours. The chief pointed at him. That is cardboard. The sailor looked at the thin display protecting him. Yes, chief. Move. The sailor ran. A plasma bolt vaporized the cardboard half a second later. The chief nodded. Good initiative. From behind the coffee kiosk, an employee raised a metal milk pitcher. Lieutenant Cole saw her preparing to throw it. Don't! The employee looked at him. It worked inside. This is a firefight. She ducked as plasma struck the counter. What do you think is happening inside? Cole had no answer for that. The Zha'kari squad leader raised one arm. Maintain suppression. The recovery team requires 200 time units. His soldiers increased their fire. Blue bolts hammered the security positions, forcing the Navy and station officers to remain behind cover. The aliens were not trying to capture the concourse. They were creating a wall. As long as the humans remained pinned, the second squad could enter the restaurant, recover Kravix, and reach the detention levels beyond it. That was the plan. Like most Zha'kari plans involving Marines, it was excellent until contact with the Marines. Behind the firing line, the remaining 10 Zha'kari reached the Waffle House. The security shutters had jammed halfway down, leaving a narrow opening beneath them. Their squad leader crouched and looked through the gap. Inside, the restaurant appeared to be undergoing several disasters simultaneously. Tables were overturned. The ceiling fan was burning. Blue foam flowed from the restroom corridor. One alien was trapped headfirst inside a rubbish bin. Another was hanging halfway through the kitchen service window while Big Leon struck his armor with a serving tray. Donna was dragging Sub-War Marshal Kravix across the floor by his ceremonial sash. The squad leader slowly raised his head. Sub-War Marshal Kravix remains active. The trooper beside him looked beneath the shutter. Kravix attempted to stand. Donna pulled the sash. He fell backwards and struck the floor. The trooper withdrew. Define active. The squad leader ignored him. Our orders are to enter, reinforce the commander, and secure the chamber. A third trooper examined the blue foam spreading beneath the shutter. His helmet sampled it. Unknown sanitation substance detected. Another trooper looked through the gap and saw Miller standing near the restroom, wet, furious, and holding a plunger. His visor immediately displayed a red threat symbol. Sanitation Marine detected. Several members of the squad stepped back. The squad leader turned toward them. Hold position. He is inside. We know. He appears armed with a waste extraction implement. It is a cleaning device. He has previously weaponized cleaning devices. The squad leader looked through the gap again. Miller struck a Zha'kari prisoner on the shoulder with the plunger handle and pointed toward the floor. The prisoner immediately lay face down. The squad leader straightened. Our commander is inside. We will enter. One trooper looked toward the firing line, holding back the Navy and security personnel. Could we exchange assignments with First Squad? No. They have cover. We have orders. They are fighting trained station defenders. Yes. The trooper pointed toward Donna, who had just hit Kravix with a coffee mug. They received the safer assignment. The squad leader dropped to the floor and crawled beneath the shutter. The others reluctantly followed. Inside, Tasha saw the first armored head appear beneath the damaged barrier. She pointed across the restaurant. More customers! The Marines turned. The first Zha'kari reinforcement pushed himself upright and raised his rifle. Tucker spotted him. Corporal, reinforcements entering! Miller looked toward the entrance. The second alien crawled beneath the shutter, then the third, then the fourth. How many? Miller asked. Simmons leaned sideways and counted the armored bodies appearing through the smoke. 10, Corporal! Miller looked at the prisoners already lying near the restroom. Then at the destroyed toilet behind him. Then at the fresh Zha'kari troops entering the restaurant. Of course there are. The first 3 reinforcements formed a firing position near the entrance, their shields activated. Plasma bolts ripped across the diner. Marines and employees dropped behind overturned booths. A bolt passed over Earl's grill. Earl ducked just low enough to avoid it while continuing to turn the bacon. Sykes stared at him. "You're still cooking?" Earl shrugged. "People ordered food." Another bolt struck the wall above the grill. Earl looked at the smoking mark. Now they're getting impatient. The remaining Zha'kari crawled beneath the shutter. Big Leon picked up the rubbish bin containing the trapped alien. The prisoner inside began kicking violently. Leon rolled the entire bin toward the entrance. It struck the 5th reinforcement as he tried to stand. The alien fell backwards into the 6th. Both disappeared behind a booth. Leon nodded. 2 for 1. Harris rose behind the counter. "Marines, hold your positions! Controlled fire!" Kowalski looked around at the burning ceiling fan, broken booths, and spreading sanitation foam. "Sir, we passed controlled about 15 minutes ago." A plasma bolt struck the plate beside him and vaporized his final piece of bacon. Kowalski froze. He stared at the empty plate. Then he slowly looked toward the reinforcements. Harris saw his expression. "Continue as you see fit." Kowalski vaulted the counter. The 7th Zha'kari had just stood when Kowalski struck him across the visor with a breakfast tray. The tray bent around the alien's helmet. The alien collapsed. Kowalski looked down at him. That was for the bacon. Diaz fired over an overturned table. "Which bacon?" "All bacon." The 10 reinforcements attempted to form a proper shield line inside the restaurant. 5 portable barriers activated, filling the entrance with blue energy. The Zha'kari advanced behind them in tight formation, forcing the Marines and employees deeper toward the kitchen and restroom corridor. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens inside the Waffle House looked organized. Kravik saw the shields moving toward him. His confidence returned. Finally, serrated Dawn, advance. Donna still held his ceremonial sash. Kravik tried to rise. She pulled it sharply. He fell onto his back. "Stay!" Kravik looked up at her. "I am a sub-war marshal." Donna wrapped the sash around a table leg. "And right now, you're tied to booth 6. The alien shield line continued forward. Plasma fire smashed plates and tore holes through the remaining furniture. Tucker and Simmons took cover beside Miller. Tucker checked his magazine. "They're pushing us toward the restroom." Miller looked behind him at the ruined sanitation chamber. "No." Simmons raised his bent breakfast tray like a shield. "What's the plan, Corporal?" Miller studied the advancing aliens. Then he looked at the floor. Water, syrup, gravy, bacon grease, and blue cleansing foam covered almost every tile between the Marines and the Zha'kari line. Miller turned toward Diaz. Diaz followed his gaze. A slow grin appeared. "That is disgusting. Will it work?" "Absolutely." Miller pointed at Tucker and Simmons. "Fire at their weapons. Don't waste rounds on the shields." Both Marines nodded. Miller pointed directly at Simmons. "And do not charge." "I wasn't going to." "You're smiling." Simmons immediately stopped. Miller moved toward the counter. "Earl, do you have anything more slippery?" Earl looked at the floor. "You need more?" "They're still standing." Earl accepted the criticism. He grabbed a large container of cooking oil and slid it across the counter. Miller caught it and poured the oil across the tiles directly in front of the alien formation. The Zha'kari squad leader saw him. "What is the sanitation marine doing?" One of his troops checked his scanner. "Deploying food lubricant." "Why?" The lead alien stepped onto it. His boot shot forward. He fell backwards into the second trooper. The second collided with the third. Their shields struck one another, flickered, and collapsed. The entire firing line fell like armored dominoes. Kowalski pointed at them. "Stacked!" Briggs fired over the fallen shields. "Scattered!" Donna threw grated cheese across the pile. "Covered!" Earl leaned out from behind the grill. "Now they're ready." Sergeant Malone rose from behind the overturned table. Marines, move! Second Platoon counterattacked. The final phase of the battle was later classified by Marine Command as close quarters combat within a civilian hospitality structure. Station security called it an uncontrolled multi-agency use of force event. Waffle House corporate called it a moderate interruption to lunch service. Second Platoon called it the Waffle Stomp. Malone advanced through the restaurant with calm, professional violence. Diaz and Briggs cleared the booths. Tasha stood behind them, calling enemy positions in restaurant shorthand. 2 gray, booth 4! Diaz fired. 1 armored, counterside! Briggs tackled him, and then Commander scattered, smothered, and moving toward the jukebox. Malone stared at her. What does that mean? He's on the floor, covered in gravy and trying to crawl away. Understood. Earl fought from behind the grill. Whenever an alien entered his reach, he struck it with whichever kitchen implement was nearest. Spatula, pan, tray, coffee pot. At one point, he used a half-frozen packet of sausages. Afterward, investigators found the packet embedded in an alien chest plate. Earl requested that it be returned. Corporate refused on hygiene grounds. Big Leon guarded the kitchen entrance. 3 Zha'kari tried to rush him together. Leon picked up a table. The aliens stopped. Tables were not supposed to be portable. Leon charged. The Zha'kari disappeared beneath it. Sykes watched in admiration. You ever consider joining the Navy? Leon dropped the table. Can I throw officers? No. Then no. Donna defended the coffee station. A wounded alien crawled toward it. She placed one shoe on his back. Where do you think you're going? To disable the human stimulant supply. Every Marine in the restaurant turned. The alien realized he had spoken too loudly. Donna looked around. Oh, sweetheart. The alien's helmet registered 17 simultaneous targeting locks. I withdraw the statement. Too late. Malone handed Donna a fresh skillet. The alien attempted to crawl faster. Miller guarded the restroom corridor because at this point the universe had assigned him a permanent sector. Tucker and Simmons guarded the prisoners under his supervision. One still wore the plunger. A 4th alien approached from behind with a blade. Miller saw his reflection in the metal coffee machine. He stepped aside. The attacker slipped on blue sanitation foam and slid through the restroom doorway. A toilet flushed. The alien immediately crawled back out. I surrender! Miller pointed toward the others. Get in line. The alien joined them. One of the prisoners looked at Miller. Do you command all human waste facilities? No. Are you certain? Yes. Your denial may be strategic misinformation. Miller stared into the distance. I should have joined the Air Force. Briggs heard him. You're too emotionally stable. Kravix got free of the table and made his final stand beside the jukebox. His armor was dented. His ceremonial sash was covered in gravy. Whipped cream dripped from one shoulder. A strip of bacon had somehow become attached to his helmet. He raised his energy blade. I am Subwar Marshal Kravix of the Serrated Dawn. I challenge your champion. The Marines looked at one another. Then, as one, they turned toward Donna. Kravix hesitated. Why are you looking at the food worker? Donna stepped forward, skillet hanging loosely at her side. Baby, you came into my restaurant. Kravix adjusted his stance. You threatened my customers. She took another step. You broke my windows. Another. You shot my ceiling. Another. You destroyed imported syrup. Kravix's blade wavered. You got blue blood on my floor. Donna stopped directly in front of him. And one of your boys clogged my toilet. Miller raised a hand. That part may involve shared responsibility. Donna did not look away from Kravix. We'll discuss that later. Miller lowered his hand. Yes, ma'am. Kravix raised his blade. "I do not fear you." Donna smiled. "You should." Kravix lunged. Donna stepped aside with the casual grace of a woman who had dodged drunk Marines at 2 in the morning for 11 years. His blade missed her by centimeters. She hit him in the knee with the skillet. Kravix staggered. Donna hit his helmet. Then the knee again. Kravix slashed horizontally. Donna leaned backward. The blade passed over her apron. Tasha threw her a coffee mug. Donna caught it without looking and smashed it against Kravix's visor. Hot coffee flooded his vision sensors. He roared and swung blindly. Donna ducked. Earl extended a mop handle. Kravix tripped over it. He fell forward. Big Leon caught him by the chest armor, turned him around, and placed him upright in front of Donna. "Your customer." "Thank you, Leon." "No problem." Donna struck Kravix in the helmet. The skillet rang. She hit him again. The bacon strip fell off. Kowalski caught it. He examined it. "Still good." Harris slapped it from his hand. "No!" Kravix dropped to one knee. Donna raised the skillet. "Yield." "I am a warrior of the serrated dawn." She raised it higher. "I have survived the Jacksonville night shift on payday weekend." Kravix's translator marked the statement as extreme credential of violence. He dropped his blade. "I yield." Donna lowered the skillet. "Good choice." Kravix looked around at his defeated troops. "This establishment has no strategic value." Donna pointed at the coffee machine. "That's where you're wrong." From outside came the steady crack of plasma fire. Lieutenant Cole's voice carried through the broken windows. "Anytime you people are finished in there." Malone looked toward the concourse. The remaining Zha'kari were still holding their firing line behind portable shields, pinning down station security and the Navy. He raised his rifle. Second Platoon outside. The Marines turned as one. Kowalski grabbed 2 strips of bacon from an abandoned plate. Harris pointed at him. "Leave the food." Kowalski tucked the bacon into his vest. "Emergency rations." The Waffle House doors burst open. Second Platoon charged into the concourse through smoke, blue sanitation foam, and flying napkins. Diaz fired while yelling. Briggs carried a bent chair leg. Simmons still had the breakfast tray. Miller came out holding the plunger. The Zha'kari firing line saw them. Their helmet displays immediately filled with warnings. One alien looked at the approaching Marines, then at the Navy and station security in front of him. "We are surrounded." His squad leader glanced toward Miller. "No." He dropped his rifle. "We are being served." The Marines hit the flank of the firing line. At the same moment, Cole and the Navy personnel rose from cover and opened fire from the front. The Zha'kari shields lasted 3 seconds. The aliens lasted 2. When it was over, Lieutenant Cole stepped around the wrecked firing position and stared at Miller's plunger. "Do I want to know?" Miller kept walking. "No." Cole nodded. "Best report I've received all day." When station security finally entered, the Waffle House looked as though it had been struck by a meteor constructed entirely from bad decisions. Tables were overturned. The ceiling fan still burned. Water and blue disinfectant covered the floor near the restrooms. Alien soldiers lay zip-tied between booths. One was trapped under the counter. 2 were wedged beneath a table. 6 had surrendered to Miller and refused to move because they believed the restroom corridor was protected territory. Kravix sat on the floor with a dented helmet and a completely revised understanding of human cuisine. Medical personnel entered behind security. A medic examined the nearest Zha'kari. "What happened to this one?" Leon looked at the bent serving tray around the alien's head. "Dish-related injury." The medic moved to the next. "This one?" "Waffle iron." "And this one?" "Griddle." "This one has a plunger stuck to his face." Everyone looked at Miller. Miller crossed his arms. "Combat is unpredictable." The medic tried to remove it. The suction held. The alien panicked. "No, it is a mark of surrender." The medic released it. "All right, plunger stays." Captain Rebecca Shaw arrived 10 minutes later from the docked USS Resolute Misunderstanding. She walked through the ruined entrance. She looked at the collapsed tables. She looked at the shattered windows. She looked at the burning ceiling. She looked at the Zha'kari prisoners. She looked at Tucker, who was completing a prisoner count with impressive precision. She looked at Simmons, who was attempting to return a bent serving tray to the employees as though nothing unusual had happened. She looked at Corporal Miller, who still had toilet paper hanging from one shoulder. Finally, she looked at Malone. "Sergeant." Malone stood with his coffee. "Ma'am." "I gave your platoon 4 hours of liberty." "Yes, ma'am." "And during that time, you defeated a prisoner recovery force and destroyed a restaurant." "With respect, ma'am, the alien started it." Donna raised a hand. "He's telling the truth." Shaw looked at her. "Who are you?" "Donna." Shaw examined the skillet, the unconscious alien at Donna's feet, and the calm authority with which she occupied the room. "Donna, would you consider a position with station security?" "No." "The Navy?" "No." "The Marines?" Donna smiled. "Honey, I already work Waffle House. I outrank all of you after midnight." Shaw considered this. Then she nodded. "Fair." Lieutenant Harris stepped forward holding the remains of his clipboard. "Ma'am, on the positive side, civilian casualties are 0. The recovery force has been neutralized, the prisoner levels remain secure, and the enemy commander was captured alive." Shaw looked at Kravix. Kravix looked away. "Structural damage?" Harris glanced around. "Moderate." A section of ceiling collapsed behind him. Harris adjusted his answer. "Developing." "Marine casualties?" "1 minor plasma burn, 3 sprains, 2 cuts, and Corporal Miller has suffered." Harris examined Miller. "What happened to you?" "Bathroom." Harris nodded. "Of course." Shaw pointed at the surrendered prisoners. "Why are 6 Zha'kari asking Corporal Miller for permission to use the toilet?" Miller stared into the middle distance. "I do not wish to discuss my brand." Diaz collapsed against a booth laughing. Briggs sat on the floor. Kowalski raised a strip of bacon. "To Miller, Lord of the restroom sector." Miller pointed at him. "I will end you." Donna placed a fresh waffle in front of Miller. "Eat, sweetheart, you look stressed." Miller sat down immediately. "Yes, ma'am." Shaw watched him. "Does he always obey restaurant employees?" Malone sipped his coffee. "Only the senior ones." The aftermath was worse than the battle. Not physically, administratively. Station Control filed a report titled Hostile Recovery Action, Civilian Dining Module, Limited Structural Damage. Station Security filed Use of Force Event involving military personnel, civilians, kitchen equipment, and 1 sanitation device. The Navy filed Successful Containment of Hostile Force through Joint Interagency Cooperation. The Marines filed Enemy Contact during Liberty Meal. Harris wrote 52 pages. Command returned the report because he had used the phrase weaponized breakfast rage 11 times. Harris removed 8 of them. The report was approved. Waffle House corporate filed Unexpected Supply Interruption, Jefferson 9 Location. Donna submitted an incident claim titled Aliens Broke My Window and 1 Booth. Marines Broke Everything Else. Her compensation request included 2 windows, 4 tables, 7 chairs, 1 ceiling fan, 1 syrup rack, 1 industrial coffee machine, 1 waffle iron, 1 skillet, 1 blocked space toilet, 16 liters of maple syrup, 37 plates. Emotional distress caused by alien foolishness. 4 unpaid waffles consumed by Kowalski during active combat. Kowalski objected to the last item. "I thought we had a bond." Donna stared at him. You ordered dessert during triage. It was a vulnerable moment. You ate bacon off a prisoner. He wasn't using it. Kravix, still seated on the floor, looked at Kowalski. That bacon was attached to my helmet. Kowalski pointed at him. You surrendered it. That is not how surrender works. Human customs are complex. Kravix and Nareth were transferred to the station detention level. Their new holding compartment was directly opposite Captain Vortek and sub-archivist Rune. Ven occupied the cell beside them, where he was reading a human technical manual and attempting to look uninvolved. Vortek watched Kravix enter. Kravix's armor was dented. His ceremonial sash was missing. There was dried gravy on one shoulder. A dried coffee stain covered his cracked visor. Vortek slowly stood. You came to recover us. Kravix lowered his head. Yes. Vortek looked behind him. No recovery team. No. No weapons. No. No dignity. Kravix looked up. That observation was unnecessary. Rune stepped closer to the barrier. Where did you engage the Marines? Kravix said nothing. Rune's expression changed. You attacked during feeding. It was a civilian establishment. Rune closed his eyes. The advisory did not exempt civilian food locations. The sign was yellow. Ven looked up from his manual. A yellow sign? Yes. Serving waffles? Kravix slowly nodded. Ven placed the manual down. Was Miller present? Kravix stared at the floor. In the sanitation chamber. Every Zha'kari prisoner recoiled at once. Vortek gripped the cell barrier. You entered a food location containing Marines, coffee and Miller, and your escape route passed through a toilet? Kravix's voice became defensive. The plan was tactically sound. Rune stared at him. Vortek ignored the first advisory. The Dominion issued the expanded version because of what happened to us. Nareth sat on the cell bench. I read that expanded advisory aloud. Vortek began laughing. It was not happy laughter. It was the laughter of a commander discovering that someone else had made his own failure look reasonable. Kravix glared at him. You were defeated by laundry. Vortek pointed through the barrier. You were defeated by a waitress. She possessed a skillet. Rune nodded gravely. That should be included in the amendment. The Zha'kari filed no official report for 6 days. When they finally did, the intelligence update contained only 7 words. New human hazard category identified, Waffle House. The Dominion High Council reviewed the combat footage. They watched Marines fighting during breakfast. They watched Donna disable a shock trooper with a skillet. They watched Earl brand an alien chest plate with a waffle iron. They watched Big Leon throw an armored soldier through a wall. They watched Tasha distribute ammunition while taking meal orders. They watched Tucker organize prisoners under fire. They watched Simmons learn all the wrong lessons from Diaz and somehow remain effective. They watched Kowalski eat bacon during suppressing fire. Then they watched Corporal Miller enter the restroom. The recording lasted 11 minutes. Nobody spoke. When the toilet exploded, one council elder turned away. When Miller emerged carrying a plunger, another covered his eyes. When 6 Zha'kari surrendered near the restroom, the high speaker paused the footage. Is this human a sanitation priest? The intelligence analyst consulted his notes. He is officially listed as a corporal of infantry. Why does he command the waste chamber? We believe the chamber has selected him. The high speaker slowly turned. The chamber selected him? It is the leading theory. Another elder pointed at Donna. Is this female their queen? We are uncertain. She defeats the sub-war marshal. Yes. She commands the Marines. Informally. She controls the coffee. Yes. The council elder sat back. She is their queen. The analyst decided not to argue. The High Speaker ordered the existing Human Marine Advisory amended. The new provisions read, 11. A yellow rectangular sign associated with waffles constitutes a military hazard regardless of the establishment's civilian designation. 12. Waffle House employees are not to be classified as non-combatants merely because they are wearing aprons. 13. Cast iron cookware is a close-quarters weapon. 14. Do not damage syrup, coffee, or breakfast items in the presence of United States Marines. 15. If a Waffle House employee rings 3 bells, withdraw immediately. 16. If Corporal Miller enters a sanitation chamber, evacuate the structure. 17. If Corporal Miller exits the sanitation chamber carrying a plunger, leave the station. 18. If the food employee says, "Baby," surrender before the next word. Across Zha'kari space, instructors added the yellow Waffle House sign to threat recognition courses. One recruit raised a hand. Is it a military emblem? The instructor looked at the image of Donna holding a skillet. It is now. 2 days later, Second Platoon returned to the USS Resolute Misunderstanding. They were banned from Orbital Transfer Station Jefferson 9. Not permanently. Just until repairs were completed, diplomatic complaints were resolved, the detention toilets were inspected, and the station's legal department determined whether Donna qualified as an independent military power. Kowalski considered the ban unjust. I paid for my meal. Briggs looked at him. You ate during a firefight. That isn't illegal. You ate food off a captured officer. He wasn't using it. You tried to claim a waffle iron as war booty. I liberated it. From the restaurant, it served honorably. Lieutenant Harris entered Marine berthing carrying a new clipboard. Every Marine groaned. Harris stopped. For your information, this is not punishment. Diaz frowned. That sounds like something punishment says before becoming paperwork. Command has reviewed the station footage. Miller closed his eyes. No. Yes. The footage is classified. It was. Miller slowly opened his eyes. What does that mean? Harris looked uncomfortable. Someone uploaded a portion to the Fleet Information Network. Briggs immediately looked at Kowalski. Kowalski looked offended. Why are you looking at me? You added music. It needed emotional structure. Miller stood. What part was uploaded? Harris consulted his clipboard. The restroom engagement. Miller became very still. What music? Kowalski moved toward the door. Nothing disrespectful. What music? It was an old Earth song. Kowalski. Another one bites the dust. Miller lunged. Kowalski ran. They disappeared into the corridor. Harris watched them go. Should someone stop them? Malone drank his coffee. No, sir. Why not? Morale. Harris sighed. Command is also incorporating the footage into training. Briggs grinned. Bathroom sector. Harris pointed at him. The official lesson concerns adaptive close-quarters combat in confined spaces. Bathroom sector. Improvised weapon employment. Plunger doctrine. Environmental awareness. Space toilet warfare. Harris lowered his clipboard. I understand why officers drink. Malone raised his cup. We've been trying to tell you. Tucker and Simmons stood near Miller's empty rack. Tucker looked thoughtful. Do you think Corporal Miller is a good team leader? Simmons nodded. He entered the bathroom alone so we wouldn't have to. Tucker considered that. That is leadership. Simmons held up the recovered yellow caution sign. Should we mount this above his rack? Tucker smiled. That is also leadership. The official record called the event the Jefferson 9 recovery action. The Navy called it a security failure with acceptable enemy losses. Station Command called it the Waffle House Incident. Marine Corps Public Affairs called it a limited defensive engagement conducted with support from local personnel. Second Platoon called it brunch contact. Corporal Miller called it the reason I now refuse to use public toilets. Donna called it day shift. The restaurant reopened 3 weeks later. The windows were replaced. The tables were repaired. The coffee machine was upgraded. The restroom received reinforced stall doors, military-grade plumbing, and a sign reading, "No plasma grenades." Waffle House Corporate offered Donna a management position. She refused because management was not allowed to hit customers with skillets. Earl mounted the damaged waffle iron above the grill. Tasha kept Kravitz's deactivated energy blade as a letter opener. Big Leon kept the bent serving tray. Sykes returned to the Navy and submitted a report recommending that all warships install civilian commercial grills for defensive purposes. The Navy rejected the recommendation. 6 months later, every Navy ship quietly received heavier serving trays. Across the Dominion, Zha'kari threat manuals were updated. The new entry showed a grainy image of Donna holding her skillet. Beside her stood Malone with his coffee. Behind them, Kowalski was eating. Earl held the waffle iron. Tasha carried an ammunition magazine and an order pad. Big Leon stood over 3 unconscious shock troopers. Tucker was zip-tying a prisoner. Simmons held a bent breakfast tray like a shield. Near the restroom, Corporal Miller held a plunger while 6 Zha'kari soldiers surrendered. The caption translated approximately as, "Never engage humans where they serve breakfast." Below, it was a second line, added by an unknown analyst who had finally begun to understand humanity. It said, "Especially when the employees have stopped taking orders." Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next installment of Second Platoon, assuming command lets them near another restaurant, bathroom, or piece of alien technology.